Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 11 at Kentucky Downs on Saturday. This is the Grade 2 $1 million ladies turf sprint. Let's take a look at the field. We're going 6.5 furlongs here. Bay Storm, the number 6, is your 9-5 morning line favorite. Bay Storm won the preview race. That, of course, was at Ellis Park, going 5.5 furlongs. 6.5, I think she'll get. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I guess it could be. She's run pretty well up to a mile, Dan. She did. I guess it's at least worth pointing out. They ran her in this race last year. She missed by a nose. So it kind of feels like this distance is okay for her. She might be a little bit better going shorter than this, but man, overall, she's just real good.
She had a very good trip in this race when finishing second to the quality Campanelle. Let's see where Timeform US has her after the opening quarter mile in this year's edition of the Turf Sprint. And they have Bay Storm in a very likable position just off the lead. I agree. Trained to Artemis has a lot of early speed. She was on the lead last time out at Saratoga. I think she's going to come out of here running, Mike. And it's not like there are really a ton of blazers opposing her.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think she'll probably get another aggressive ride here. Trained Artemis. Overall, the thing that you like about her is that she always shows up. It's questionable, what kind of a quality field can she really beat if the good horses show up, and this might be a little too tough for her, Dan. But she's going to go forward in this race. She'll probably be on the lead, and then she'll be trying to last that last furlong because this distance is a real question for her.
Fast and Feminine's the number 1. She's going to be a rank outsider on the tote board, and she's a little bit hard to make on paper. She's run 4 times on turf. She hasn't won. Her buyer speed figures pale in comparison to some of the main contenders. I guess if you go back to her last turf race at Horseshoe Indianapolis 3 starts back, it was a race that produced 3 next out winners, one winning a stake at Ellis with a 92, but she's got to do a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, listen, maybe she's been a turf sprinter all along, and they've just never tried that with her. It's really the only thing that you could point to in this race that might lead to a turnaround.
Quarry, a comment, the number 2 is very consistent, Mike. She's been on the board in 8 of 10 lifetime starts. And last time out going 5.5 at Ellis, she ran just fine against Bay Storm that day. She had to take the long way around while Bay Storm was able to save valuable ground. And maybe that made the difference. I'm not sure. I thought she had a fair enough chance at the 16th pole, but it was her first start off the layoff.
Yeah, we kind of look at it the same way. I mean, there's an argument to be made that if you reverse the trips, then Quarry Comet wins and Bay Storm is second. I kind of didn't really look at it that way. I felt like this horse had a fair shot in there and was only second best. That being said, her last 2 races, they're both really good, Dan, and she could take another step forward here.
And she has previously won at this distance at Kentucky Downs. Wakanaka is the number 3. She has kept very good company for most of her career. Bill Mott at first tried her as like a middle distance horse, and she ran just fine in several pretty good races. Maybe cutting her back and having her as a one-run sprinter will work. Here's her last race, the Caress. Oh, she was hurt by a lack of pace in this race. You see her in the pink. She commenced an early wide move to get into contention, and it's no shame in her flattening out behind this horse. Roses for Deborah, the gray to her inside, looks like she might be a monster sprinting on the turf.
Yeah, Roses for Deborah, certainly one of the better filly mare turf sprinters in the country. And I'm with you. I mean, at first I wasn't sure about Mott cutting Wakanaka back in distance for that race, Dan. As it turns out, that thing never set up for her at all, and she couldn't sit back and make one run because they were walking, so they had to go early. You saw there and down to mid-stretch, she was right there in contention. I thought she ran really well last time.
She has winning experience overseas in Europe, so maybe the peaks and valleys of this turf course, the dips and dives will work for her. And I think 6.5 will be a lot better for her than 5.5. She is a strong late threat. A strong early threat is Trained to Artemis. We just saw her finish 3rd against Roses for Deborah. Made the lead that day. Thought she had a pretty easy lead. Again, no excuse not getting beat by Roses for Deborah. I was a little disappointed she didn't hold on for second. And to me, 6.5 is a question mark.
Yeah, the distance is a real question mark for her. We'll see if she can get it. Obviously, if she's able to sort of make the front and not take too much pressure up there, that'll help her chances. I'm still not sure I'd want to bet her going this far against this kind of a field, Dan. But, man, she's very consistent. She shows up every single time. She's already got 3 stakes wins this year sprinting on the grass. So when things go her way, she can be really dangerous in a race like this.
And here's that Smart and Fancy. She got beat last time out. She was able to make the lead. Again, the favorite is just too good. Roses for Deborah is 1-5, and she earned a 102 buyer speed figure. This on the heels of her beating Wakanaka earlier in the Saratoga meet. Also worth noting that this race came on good turf. Maybe she likes to hear her feet rattle a little bit on firmer ground. So with Trained to Artemis, we expect her to make the lead, but she is going to have to stretch her ability 6.5. Tony Ann is the number 5, Mike. She was second last time out in the Daisy Cutter at Del Mar. It was a race where I thought Kent DeZormo did everything he could and gave her a really nice ride. It was her first start of a 7-month layoff. She was in between horses on the turn, got the split, was down towards the inside, got kicked down by Amy C.
Yeah, almost got really lucky in that Daisy Cutter. The trip really worked out for her. Not only did she get a great trip in there, but the even money favorite in the race, Twilight Gleaming, got totally shut off through the stretcher. She was going to win. So that sort of opened it up for everybody else. This horse did her best. She almost got lucky. It didn't quite happen.
I think it's a great stepping stone for this race. She's won it going 1.1 miles in the past. She's done it twice. That race was 5. She's done well at 5 in the past, but 5 first off a 7-month layoff, it might have her very fit for this race, and she has a habit of getting good trips. Moving on to the 6, Bay Storm, your morning line favorite at 9-5. We talked about her race last time at Ellis Park where she beat Quarria Comet. Trips just don't get too much better than that. She saved ground in behind a duel. The rail opened up. She shot on through. She got it done. She's very, very consistent. I'm not sure how low I'd go on the tote, but she is a contender, a strong one at that.
I don't really have anything to add to that. She shows up in just about every one of her races. She can get this far. Maybe she's a little better going a little bit shorter, but she can get this far. She always gets good trips in her races. Does that mean I would want to bet her at, some around 2-1 in this race? Probably not, but she's a major, major player.
Friends, don't hold the 7R Flash Drive's last race against her. Just go back into those free Formulator past performances when you're betting this race with DRF Bets. Click on the short comment and watch the start. She completely missed the break, and then she was rushed up and got stuck in the pocket behind a slow pace. That was one of the races Roses for Deborah run at Saratoga. I'm going to draw a line through that race and concentrate on her excellent form going longer at Woodbine.
Yeah, I think that could be key. She did have an excuse last time, stumbled at the start of that race and just sort of left herself out of position. But I also just feel like the 5.5 ultimately was too short for her. She was actually running at the end of that race. It was way too late, and she carried on past the wire. I think the added furlong here really helps her. Her overall turf form is really good. She can get the right kind of trips in her races. She's not slow early, but she doesn't need the lead. And she's a great price on the morning line. I think there's a lot to like about this horse.
I'm curious to see if the 8 Unbridled Mary runs here or in an allowance race at Kentucky Downs on Wednesday for John Sadler. She earned a stakes win, first off a short layoff at Lone Star going 5. Last time out in the Daisy Cutter, she kind of was running on at the end of that race when it was too late. I like that she's had good experience going down the hill at Santa Anita at 6.5. I also think she's lightly raced enough that we haven't seen her best. We've seen nutty things happen at Kentucky Downs. This would not be the nuttiest.
Yeah. I agree with that. I actually like her turf sprint form, and I don't really care about her last race there. Obviously, she had to come wide while Tony Ann got the inside run there, and it made a little bit of a difference. And of course, the favorite getting shut off helped too. But I like her other races, and I'd like her getting a little bit more distance in this race. She's another great price on the line that I'll be using.
Gal in a Rush completes this field for Christophe Clement. She's also entered in that allowance race on Wednesday. I really like the way Christophe Clement has managed this horse. She showed a lot of ability earlier in her career, earning a couple of stakes placings, and then could never get over the hump. And Clement just stayed patient, ran her in the first level allowance, got through it, ran her in the second level allowance, got through it. It doesn't matter whether it's 5.5 or 7. She has tactical speed. Ortiz picks up the mount here. I think 12-1 is a fair price for a filly that might be ready for blast-off mode. She showed that ability early in her career.
I kind of agree with all that stuff, Dan. I mean, I don't like either of the fields that she beat in her last 2 starts. She was not beating good fields, but she looked good winning. And it just feels like she was dirtied up leading into those races. She might be ready to take another step forward in here. This distance is no problem for her.
Let's take a look at race number 11, our top selections. It's a $1 million race. It's the Ladies Turf Sprint. Where are you going in here, Mike?
I want to bet our Flash Drive, Dan. I like her getting added distance in this race. I don't think she ran as poorly as it looks in the Caress last time. She fits right in with these horses. She's a very, very fair price on the line.
I respect Bay Storm. I'm curious to see what Unbridled Mary does if she runs in this race. I like her at the extra distance. I think her last race is a little better than it looks because she was running on at the end. Again, she gets more ground here. Can't complain about the price, 20-1 on the morning line. 73684 for Mike, 8652 for me. It is race number 11 on a Saturday afternoon at Kentucky Downs with nothing but big money stakes. This is the Ladies Turf Sprint. Good luck.